What's up, guys? The BQWA is getting a new home, so it's just moving to a new channel. Yeah, I just want a cleaner aesthetic. I want to do some cleanup crew. I want things to stand on their own. The CCU has been getting a little bit messy, and I want to move the BQWA over to a new home. So, yeah, the new channel will be the first link in the description below. Make sure to go check that out and subscribe, because future episodes will be going up on there. And yeah, I love you. Make sure to go do that if you want. And yeah. Alright, that's we're gonna cut that there. Hello everyone, welcome back to the final episode of the Bad Questions Worst Answers podcast. Each week I, Connor, along with my friend Charlie,
what's up, guys?
Present a bad question to the others, then we attempt to explore these bad questions with the worst answers. Guys,
I thought I'd come in punchy. You like it?
I thought it was a little much, but I think we're capturing the right.
What's up, guys?
Ooh, welcome back to the final episode of the Bad Questions Worst Answers podcast. Each week I, Connor, along with my friends Charlie, million surprise toys. Oh!
I'm gonna come in real hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
It died.
That it's
the
dead.
momentum of the show was just on a huge up, and then just plummeted right with that pause.
Yeah, but I think we're to piggyback off of last week's intro. I think the energy that I've personally been working on and bringing to the CCU and the BQWA.
And that I've always had, and sort of been like a leader on and proponent of throughout the whole production process of the C.
Yeah, I've been really trying to
CCU.
Yeah, I've been playing catch up, and I think I've finally caught up to that, and still working towards it. But yeah, enough energy, guys. The correct answer is yes.
Can I throw out a suggestion?
Yeah.
And then we've got an apology to get to, which is how we like to kick off most shows. But I'd like to suggest, would you consider doing the Moffat cinematic universe? A lot of your channel's about kind of punching up, taking on the big guy. Maybe you go at the Marvel cinematic universe with the Moffat cinematic universe. See if you can take them.
That's true. I didn't realize that I had the ability to do that with my.
That's your power.
With that I don't think Moffat is a punchy name. I don't think it's catchy though.
That's kind of true.
It's like that, and I guess that's the thing that I've kind of struggled with the identity, with the personally, like, the identity of myself. You don't see a lot of Moffats around, and I thought of just changing the channel's name to just Connor, but I think that's too white and generic.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like frat boy, sort of a. That's maybe a little too generic, even. But like, yeah, it doesn't have enough character.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough gusto. But I guess I'm just kind of working with what I have, which is just kind of life itself. We kind of just work with what we have.
Yeah, you work with the pieces you get. Yeah,
I don't know. The MCU, I might rant about it on next week's episode. When I approached the idea to you, you didn't seem too enthusiastic about it, and I wasn't entirely enthusiastic about it either.
The next week's show.
Yeah.
We don't want to spoil too much. We don't want to give away too many of the behind the scenes secrets, but I think there's potential to it. We'll talk.
Okay.
I think what's more important to our dear listener is that we begin with an apology.
Yeah, the apology. The apology, yes. Guys, we're sorry. We promised, but not really, but we still kind of set up expectations for there to be a guest on this week's episode.
Not only that, but I believe we promised a diversity hire.
Yeah, we promised a diversity hire that was coming back. We made some sort of amends. And unfortunately, those amends are completely burned. The bridges are burned. There was a scheduling conflict that.
We're liars. We are liars. We're slanderers. We're cheaters.
Yeah.
And we hope that you'll take us back and accept another 2-camera show. Next week, though, big promises.
Yes, we have big expectations. Next week, we have a diversity hire coming on the show. Heaven forbid there be any more scheduling. There wasn't even scheduling conflicts. It was just communication conflicts, and I don't know if I want to get too far into it.
I'm trying to decide how much we throw our guest under the bus.
Yeah,
because
we don't want to. We don't want to hurt them.
We've got a lot of power on the show. We've talked about our kind of industry connections, the cultural influence that we wield, and it puts us in a difficult position where we feel that we did not make any errors here.
We didn't really.
We felt that we performed to our best in this instance, but it's also it's not right of us to throw around our social weight and hurt someone else's reputation like this. So just know that next week's diversity hire really screwed us over. But
yeah, and I think we will make an effort next week to throw them under the bus to their faces. I think
fair, I would say, as is right and proper. It should be done. It should be done up front and close. But just know that, and it's not personal.
It's completely not personal. It's just business.
It's just business. But we were wronged, and it's their fault.
Yeah.
I think we've handled that well. I think we really came at that fair and honest.
I agree.
I think I said the Fox News slogan there. And question time. Let's hop into it. I'm coming at us with just kind of a we like to call on the show a quickie. Just a snip.
We like to call this one a nooner, guys.
Yeah, just a BQWA quickie coming at you here. I want to talk about what the most. I'm sorry.
I just love the quickie. I love that word.
Well, they're just little snippets. We do them all the time. You can go back the catalog. It's canon.
Yeah, there's a lot of quickies that we can point back to, but that would take too long. Anyway.
This one is, I want to talk about what we think is the most artificial product on Earth. Because I think there's a lot of obvious answers here, right? Like, the whole digital world is, like, inherently, like, farcical and fake and utterly devoid of, like, any natural connection. But somehow to me, that seems more... I think almost like the absurd and, like, whimsical nature of, like, everything digital and technological almost like departs it from this weird dissonance between the natural world and the like man-made artificial world. And so I guess as far as this question goes, we can get into it, but I just think there's so many like odd little things that we take for granted as normal and like kind of generic whatever things that are just so like absurd and fake, and I'd like to talk about those a little bit.
I mentioned this to you before we started recording. I think Funko Pops are the abomination of everything that ever existed. This isn't necessarily a Funko Pop, but I have my Minecraft Creeper.
Oh, that's what they are. I honestly had no idea what
but
those were.
It's the Funko Pops are a lot more like they have bug eyes. They look overall very stupid.
Are they all fake? Are they all like characters, or are there like real life people ones?
I'm sure they have real life people on there, but it's very popular. Like, oh, I just got my Iron Man Funko Pop.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with that? Like, what? I understand, like, there's a need to have a hobby of collecting and
Mm-hmm.
all that, but Funko Pops are. I think you need to be doing something a little bit better with your life when you own a few Funko Pops that you carry around. And now that I'm saying this, I know my brother has a few of them. Not a few, but he has like two or three, I think.
Friend of the show, Colin.
Friend of the show, Colin, and maybe that's why he's so dry in the episodes.
Is because the Funko Pops?
Yeah, it's because of the Funko Pops. He looks at those and just sees how dead those little plastic things are.
There are a lot. I've not, because as I sort of hinted at, I had no idea what they were until you showed me that creeper thing, and now I like you see them all over the place, but I didn't realize like how many of them are out there and how many people have them. It's not like I collect. It's not like there's a group of people that collects them, and it's sort of like Funko Pops are relegated to that group, but just like everybody has random ones. That is very unusual, and I think it's a great point as just like absurdly fake. Like everything about them is fake. Not only the physical object itself, but sort of the thing it comes from, and like the reason it's able to exist is because of a fake culture that we've produced. And it sort of connects to something that I think is just so weird, which is that we have this incredible ability to make anything we want any color we want it to be, you know? And like I had to refill my printer doesn't use like it's I don't want to like pump my own tires here, but my printer doesn't use ink cartridges, but it takes like raw ink in a bottle, and it's just like weird to me. Like it's super cheap also, which I'd like to throw out. It's like a way cheaper alternative. It lasts like longer. Anyway, huge fan of it. Epson 3750, hugely recommended. Wish it had a bigger scanner, but it's so freaky to me that we can just like paint stuff, and ink is so weird. Like it's just like concentrated color. Like where does that come from? If I told you to make printer ink, Connor, where would you start?
Yeah,
like,
that's true. I guess I've never thought about that. It's
like I need you to make me the color red. Go. And it's like completely consistent, you know, it's not like there's like chunks of berry in there or anything like that where like paint
yeah, like,
like
how do you
anti-paint
obtain a dye? Like how does that work? Well, even like food coloring too, like how
it's just weird.
How
it's
does
just
that
like a
all
little
work?
bottle of color, and I don't know. I that kind of stuff that's sort of like the epitome of this question to me. And what's weird about those is those have been around forever, you know? But it used to be that you pounded up, you know, berries and herbs or whatever and got your color. I don't know why I really needed to do this gesture to show that. But that's not at all the case. Like, it's not like they're shipping a bunch of cherries off to the Epson place and just crunching them down until they're
I saw that they invented. I forget where I saw this. It could have been Twitter or something, but they invented like a new color of blue. Like I'm not sure.
That can't be a thing, can it? Like
I feel like that's. I'll like do a quick Google search. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Did we invent a new color of?
It's got to just be like a different like manufacture. Like there's no way you can.
Oh yes. Discovery of first new blue pigment in 200 years. Leads to quest for elusive red. What? It's called.
So there's like a group of people out there that are like hunting down colors, and that's what this is about. It's trying to like hunt them down and find them.
I think it's called Yinmin Blue. And it's a mixed 3 components. Yttrium oxide, indium
like
oxide, and manganese oxide.
So I didn't realize that like
it's all chemicals. It's all
weird.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. That like to get something so pure and like idealized as just like color in a bottle, it would have to be like, you know, literally as pure as like an elemental form of something. But that's interesting. That, I mean, I guess that sort of answers the question of where it comes from. But then just to think of how unusual that is, to just like, here's your tub of what was it, manganese oxide, you know,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah,
the
where do you
indigenous
even
cultures of
go to get that?
centuries ago were not hauling around manganese oxide
Yeah.
to make their new blue pigment. And crazy to think that that's how we discover them too. Like we just mixed the right amount of whatever you said, the ytterbium, which I'm sure we're butchering,
All the
and
oxides and
manganese and stuff, and like boom, new blue. What's the significance? Like, what do you think? What is the significance of something like that? Like we have screens that can show like some billions, like
yeah,
a couple
is this
billion
new
colors.
color that was
So
created? Is this on like can I find it on Photoshop? Like when I go through the color wheel? Like
I think it's got to just be like you can paint shit this new color. You know, like you can make your Subaru, you can make your Ram 2500 that gets in a bunch of DUIs. You can paint you can paint that a new blue now. Although here's another thing that blows my mind: not all paint is the same. Which on its face, not a particularly insightful comment. But I remember reading about how big it is in the automotive industry to, and one of the things that like Tesla struggles with and up and coming brands struggle with is being able to get like consistent colors across different materials, because every component in a car is like different alloys and plastics and stuff like that.
yeah.
And so to be able to make the whole car look the same color at the end is a huge achievement. And then to think about just like the weird perfection and like glossiness of car paint. This is turning into just me ranting about how cool I think paint is, but anyway, I think that kind of stuff is just so, the perfection of it is weird. And I don't know why I don't feel the same way with like computers and screens. And maybe it is just because they're so wildly, you know, beyond the scope of this kind of a thought. But anyway, paint is whack. That's what I'm here to say.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It's when I for some reason when I think of paint, I think of it as an incredible waste. I don't know why.
Hmm.
I it just seems like it like I know paint takes this like the physical like container of paint like you go out like that is like way too much money to like buy a color. I don't know.
Yeah,
This is a very uninformed take, but
I just find it to be so foreign. Like just looking
yeah.
into a bucket of paint or something, and it, you know, it comes and there's
Yeah,
like, you
there
know,
is
the
something
weird,
very foreign about it that I
yeah,
think
like when you
we're
first go ahead.
oh yeah, that was kind of the place where I was coming from with my take is that it seems very just like a foreign thing.
Yeah, like when you first pop it open, it's like there's just the different swirls, and like some of them are kind of clear and some of them have the color, but it's just like there's not a single identifiable part of it. It's like
Yeah.
that's manganese oxide. You know?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
no one can point to manganese oxide and say, you know, there it is. Um, Although there's kind of a, well, that's a little too existential to say like the most artificial things are like pure elements. Uh, we don't need to get to that.
Yeah, we don't need a.
That's a little too
It's a little too heady for
fake high
us.
minded. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like uninteresting high minded dialogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stuff really stands out to me. And yeah, the ability, not just the ink itself, but the processes to like put it on things. And like I was sort of
Hmm.
saying with like the automotives, just like how exact we can
Yeah.
get those things. Before the show, you were mentioning like plastic too as another thing that's just kind of wild, and that's really true.
Yeah, and it's basically everything that we own. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
or real. Like, everything is just a plastic. Like our
And so
Funko
many different,
Pops.
so many different kinds of it too. That's something that gets me a lot. Is it's not like there's tons of different wood products, or like glass products
Yeah.
and pipes, but they're all like roughly the same. But plastic can take on just so many different forms. It's sort of mind-boggling. Um, just how many different versions of it, like the rubberized and then like the hard coatings are like sprayable and stuff.
Yeah.
It's wild. Humans have really kind of uh, just kind of made a lot of this stuff our own, to put it lightly. We've
Yeah.
really left a mark in terms of just kind of making new shit that maybe wasn't really. I've talked before about how important I think plastic is, but it's definitely just utterly foreign. Like there's
Yeah.
completely artificial, which I guess is the point of the question. But anyway, that was me ranting about paint for a while, so we can jump.
That
to
was
your
our
question.
paint quickie.
Just a quick paint quickie.
Yeah.
Kind of like my Ram 2500 quickie a few episodes ago. I wanted to do a quick shout out to myself, Connor.
Okay.
I watched your most recent video on Justin Bieber. Check it out. Link in it's your channel.
It's
so you
on my
probably haven't seen
channels.
if you're
Click it,
watching this.
subscribe, do it all.
Do the work yourself. I was watching that, and then the next thing that came up was the great podcast episode, Charlie Talks About Trucks for 20 Minutes, which I don't think was titled particularly clickbaity. I don't really think we're doing ourselves any favors with titles like that. But I was like I was doing dishes, so I just let that play for a while, and I was listening to it. And that was back when we started the show off, which we did for like 2 weeks with our awkward social interactions, which was a horrible idea that I brought to the show. And I just want to say, I've been killing it with some social interactions lately.
Really?
I think, we've talked, I think, at length on the show about how much I feel like the quarantine and like online education and everything has ruined me socially. Like I'm so much worse than I used to be at talking in general. But man, I've been killing it. I started that episode with a really bad one, and we sort of talked about our normal curmudgeon-y, we're bad at talking and don't like people stuff. And I gotta say, I've had a few really good ones lately. Nothing
Really?
worth like talking individually about, but just a little pat on the back to me, working on that being nicer New Year's resolution. We're making it happen. We're doing good work.
Yeah, let's get some pogs in the chat for Charlie.
Yeah, let's pog me up. I want to get gassed up big time here on this pog action. So hit me with some of those. Connor, your question.
My question for today is Gen Z inherently socially inept? Like, are we baked in just kind of socially stupid?
Do you want to talk where you're coming from with that at all? Or do you want to get into it?
I guess like I started listening to a podcast. Like, I've been listening to like Tim Dillon, and Tim Dillon had this woman, Anna Kochny, on, and she has a podcast called Red Scare. Podcast about a podcast time. Yeah, and she the Red Scare is two Russian women that live in New York, that just kind of they just commentate on culture in general, and they've had a few takes on how Gen Z is just kind of socially flawed, just kind of in general. Like, I feel like we lack a certain perspective, like a personal perspective, that we don't really have much of an identity, stuff like that, I guess. Which I guess I mentioned to this to you before, where I think we lack a sort of charm.
I thought that was such a good word when you use that to describe it. I think it's that word that encapsulates it, because socially inept is a pretty like strong phrasing, like that's sort of it's very broad, you know, like that could be so many different things. But I
Yeah.
think charm is a really good way to put it. When you think charm, you don't think anyone 20 years old. And maybe that's kind of a universal truth. You know, like charming people develop with age and that comes with
Yeah.
age. But there is something that is very I think so many people in our generation are sort of devoid of like the like character's a little too strong to
Like a
say that people are devoid
personality, I
of
think.
character.
At
But
least
even
like
even that's so strong. People have personality. It's just that there's
yeah,
like
but
there's
there's like
some kind of
there's like
missing charm.
something missing. Like we're like all robots, I feel. Well, not I
Yeah,
mean, I don't think I'm a robot, but I could
we are
be.
not.
I genuinely get very anxious when I think of stuff like that where I'm like, okay, well, am I like this socially inept person? And part of me, yeah, I am uh, socially inept, but I guess I don't really care um, of my socially ineptness. I think I
Mhm.
get by pretty well um, by my awkwardness, and I think I find that charming.
And we've talked before about how we try to sort of embrace our own inability, or at least like the social
Yeah,
interaction would go well for me with like people outside my normal circle are when I'm sort of embracing the fact that I'm shitty at talking to
yeah.
people. Um,
I think we do have a good sense of who we are as people and like what we kind of bring to the table.
and that's I think that's another sort of point you made that I think is super accurate. I think like whenever anyone thinks about young generations and social, the first thing that comes to mind is social media, and obviously it's huge. Um, and we could, as many have, talk about it at length. But I think like I think it hits to like a deeper point when you talk about the fact that there's like a lack of charm that I think people have, and I think you're right that it sort of comes from a lack of maybe self-effacing like behavior or like just a
Yeah,
lack of self-awareness. Um, and maybe that's sort of a social media related thing where you get so much confirmation bias on social media, or you can. I'm the last person that should talk about it, but um, you can get like in sort of a bubble. Like I know my dad got a Twitter because he wanted to keep up with what people were saying on Twitter. There are like four
yeah,
people that he wanted to know about, and he talks to me all the time. He's like, everyone on Twitter, and then he's like, but I realize everyone for me is just like the four people that I want to hear about, you know. So he
yeah,
like, and I think it's such an interesting point that on social media you're going to be surrounded by your own beliefs and your own thing. It's going to be really tough to look and be like, what does that say about me or whatever, because
yeah.
everyone is saying that when you're
It's
everyone is six people or whatever.
I think like the difference, like I think yeah, you can make the argument that like generations before us had their own confirmation bias by like what like TV they watched or like
Mm-hmm.
the people they selectively listened to, but um you're getting them from people with some sort of merit or credibility, and on Twitter or social media, you're getting it from Joe Schmoes that really don't mean anything.
Well,
And
I want to step in and temper that take a little bit. It's just gonna hop off the bench and try and dial that down a tad, and say I think you're right. Like it's no longer it takes like a degree or career in news or something to share an opinion, and I think that can be a good thing. You know, like I we there's an ability for ideas to move faster and smaller voices to
yeah,
be excellent. But I also think the inherent nature of social media is going to push the furthest extremes of an opinion, you know,
well, yeah,
because that's what
everyone feels entitled and everyone wants to feel different, which like those people who feel that way really aren't that different. Um, yeah, there's a sense of like entitlement and like justice that people like call upon themselves when they choose to enter this like ring of whatever like we call it, and it's very dumb, and like I don't really in exchange in really social media discourse. I just do it to tweet out stuff like my dick's out or whatever. I don't know what I
Nice.
tweet. Yeah,
Sounds
I
like
don't
a great follow.
um yeah, it is. And you can, people who follow my Twitter know that I tweet my videos out there. It's a great platform to I think social media is just kind of good to promote stuff. I don't know. Like if you already have a following, like it's good
Mm-hmm.
to get people to buy your merch, I guess.
Yeah, I'm yeah, and I think that's true. And I think the last thing anyone needs to hear about is like two privileged, like largely unaffected white guys talking about how not important social media is as far as spreading opinions. Like that's not a take that anyone needs to or should pay heavy attention to. But I think what we're trying to get at in like a broader sense is just like how the maybe like echo chamber or something of social media can sort of
Yeah,
cause us to lose our own I
it's
think it
all
sort of
very
takes
yeah.
as much as you said it like promotes individuality and getting your thoughts out there and your like unique opinion. I think it also sort of forces you into some like binaries of like here's one direction you can go on something
Well, yeah,
and
that's
here's
I
another,
I think
but the
like
middle no one's going to pay attention to.
yeah, I think that's what kind of like that uh like self-entitlement kind of comes from. Like you have like almost too much of it where you feel like you're not forced, but you kind of just inherently fall into this or that in some way. I think, and everyone wants to like tell their story, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
means, and no one, unless you have like some, unless you can tell your story in an interesting way, no one is gonna care like what your story is like. And when I mean story, like not like literally, just like I don't know, you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like I think the whole point of social media is to tell stories, and people should. But I think when you have an ability to spread something and hundreds of thousands of people have the potential to just connect to it, like like you said, it gives random generic people like you or I all of a sudden a random platform, right? Like
Yeah,
random people can all of a sudden become very important because they have the right story. And oftentimes those stories are important and relevant and should be told. And I don't think the point is like the stories themselves, but the fact that when a random story can catch fire and be huge, it's sort of a rat race almost, or it
mm-hmm.
can be, of like whose story is the most relevant or who's gonna, be super trending and huge today and will fall off the ladder again tomorrow
Yeah.
back to normalcy. Do you think there's anything? I hate to get super bogged down in the social media thing because it's just something that is so over talked about. I think like for good reason. It's fascinating and interesting. But do you think there's anything about like maybe how high school social dynamics work or like youth stuff that maybe affects how our generation communicates or something like that beyond the social media scape?
Um, I mean, like, I don't think you get a lot of as many of like your typical like high school stereotypes as you do. It's like all very like bland, and everyone is kind of the same. Like, I don't think there. I mean, there are definitely jocks, and I had jocks. Um, like we had jocks in our high school, but I don't think they really had the power that
like
like
80s movies jocks
yeah,
did.
like a John Hughes movie has like it,
Yeah.
or even like in the 90s or whatever. Like I don't think anyone really. I mean, there's definitely like a little of like that hierarchy going on, but I think it's all like pretty like bland across the board, where
Mhm.
people like don't, I don't know, don't
Mhm.
really have, like, there isn't like there aren't like these gatekeepers in high school. Like it's kind of just it's I don't know.
Do you think those were a real thing back in the John Hughes 80s movies
I think
time? Or
so, or else like why
you do?
would they like why would they exist and are like I think
Hmm.
I'm sure John Hughes, like, I don't know anything about John Hughes, but I'm sure he's just like putting his like how he saw high school through his eyes, like
It's kind of
into
true.
his
And
movies.
now I feel like um high school movies like To All the Boys I've Loved Before or Kissing Booth or something like that tend to show uh like the jock, but he like his girlfriend does theater or so, like there's
Yeah,
there's so much
it's
more like cross pollination
yeah,
of
even that, and but
stuff.
I think like even like I think it's all very like made up, like in a way, like where you get these, even like a show like Euphoria, like which I love. I think it's over exaggerated on purpose. I mean, like it's very like on the nose and like tongue in
Hmm.
cheek, with how it is, but it's I don't know. It's all I think it's all, at least like from my perspective, I think it's all very made up.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard because our high school was like not a, I don't know. I'm sure it's not like a particularly archetypal high school.
Yeah.
But I think there's something, and we both went to weird middle schools too, so we're not exactly like relevant when it comes to what maybe the
Mm-hmm.
generic social experience is like. But I think I'm trying to think of how just like texting or something influences it. Because before social media was huge, it was texting that was going to kill us all. And I'm wondering if that has an impact on how people communicate now. Do you think you're able to like hide from more important and significant and difficult conversations through a digital thing now?
Well,
Because
yeah.
I remember in high school, like if I had something serious I wanted to talk to people about, a lot of times I'd like start it with a text, and then
Yeah.
like maybe we talk in person about it later.
If I wanted to pursue a girl, I would have like the I would have like literally the most impossible time trying to talk to them in person, but like through texting, like it's not even really even social. Like you're just kind of talking to like your like imagination in a way. Um,
Yeah, and you've got the time to like overthink it, and both in a good way and a bad way. Like you can present an idealized version of you through the text
yeah,
that would react properly or differently than you might
yeah.
normally, but
Nothing's
also
very
you
like
can stir
kinetic
in your own
when we're
emotions so
yeah.
much. Yeah. I wonder how much do you think, obviously I think like texting and the digital communication has a massive impact on romantic relationships, but I would venture to guess that being able I can't are there many, maybe this is, yeah, let's start with this. Are there many interactions that you have uh in high school or like in that sort of like adolescent period that we're both barely past, that are more like difficult and nerve-wracking and scary than like romantic related ones, or like partner maybe is a better word.
Um, hmm.
Because I
I'm
think almost all the hardest conversations I had in high school that were like scary and like intense and stuff were in and like a part of and surrounding relationships. Maybe that
Yeah.
just says a lot about me.
I think
But
like there's like not I feel like there's less conflict, and I don't think uh I guess that doesn't really build like the most character when you're not really faced with that conflict. I feel like, because I feel like when you're faced with
what kind of conflict? What do you mean?
just like like interpersonal, like between like I don't know, just conflict in general, like any, just like the sense of not like physical. I mean, I guess that can like I guess that's a part of it.
Probably true as well, but yeah.
Um,
So you're saying you mean like just in general because of maybe the digital communication being an outlet for
yeah,
everyone.
you can
There's
have conflict over like Twitter or whatever the fuck, but like, what's that?
yeah, it's superficial
What's like that
stuff.
really gonna like teach you as a or like help
Hmm.
build you as a person? And I mean, I guess like I can't really think of any like conflicts I've had over like Twitter, but I know that that's like a very prevalent thing that people get consumed by on like social media. Um, and like I don't really get. Uh, yeah, it's very. I don't think that I feel like you're kind of in this like state of arrested development when you're not really faced with like that conflict. You're just kind of like stuck in this place where you're kind of hitting a wall because you just like weren't able to build that character.
Huge shout out to Arrested Development too. I'm not sure
Great
we've ever
show.
touched on the show.
We
Maybe
still
I
need to watch the last half of the fifth season.
is that true? We never have.
Yeah, we never did.
That's crazy. We watched the first half in one binge, sort of by accident. We never got to part two.
Yeah.
Damn.
I
Anyway,
still,
huge
yeah,
recommend to seasons 1 through 3, and then
yeah,
4 and 5 you've got to really want to. But uh, I want to go back to the like romantic angle a little bit and say that I think I would say for me some of the biggest growth I've had, and again maybe this is just that like I'm it's personal, but um, I think some of the most like growth and like stick with me like turning point conversations I've had in my life were be like things that caused breakups or like dealing with breakups or getting together with people and like figuring out how to incorporate someone else in my life in that way and it's like set myself aside at times and all that. And I think those conversations when they were in person were so difficult and made me grow and improve as a social person
yeah,
so much. And I think the ability to sort of retreat and hide behind texts and thing and the like, um, I think it's got to be pretty huge to not have to deal with
yeah,
romantic stuff in person all the time. I just think those conversations, like those deep emotional, like let it out, find out like how I think those are really conversations where you like find out who you are and what you stand for and how you handle things and how you feel. You
mm,
have to come to terms with all that in those exchanges. And I think being able to sort of hide from those or have them tangentially um, has to be really significant.
yeah. No, I agree.
I'm not sure what kind of like interactions you might have had that are like that, and maybe it's just that it's sort of incidental for me that a lot of those have come
I
in
guess
relationship contexts. But
like I mean, the two times I've like had a breakup with someone, like the one was over the phone, which I
let's
guess
talk about that. Like, how did okay, I guess maybe set them both up first. But
and the other one it was in person. The one that was in person, it was already kind of fizzled out, and I kind of just didn't really care about that person anymore. So I was kind of
were you the
like,
person breaking up in both
no, I
cases?
got broken up with the in person one, but it was kind of like the time was come.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was overdue. I mean, we just didn't really care about each other, and like I was kind of happy that like
Huh.
that
Uh-huh.
occurred. I was like, okay, well, I don't have to deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
And I guess like we there wasn't really much in investing into that relationship, but like the one over the phone was very impactful. But I think over the phone helps because you can hear that person like with your like you can feel.
Yeah. Definitely better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Every breakup I've had has been in person and what I would describe as like very um like mature and open and like good dialogues. Like
Yeah.
as far as breakups go, I've had like very good
Mm-hmm.
amicable's the wrong word, but like they've ended healthily, and
Yeah. It was a
we
clean.
were able to
Yeah.
find like a good relationship after that. Um which is I'm lucky for that. But I think maybe there is something to I've always been someone that really prefers to deal with things in person.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely like when you're in middle school and stuff, especially like whatever you can do over text, you do. Um, but I think generally, especially in maybe the last like 5, 6 years of my life, I've really tried and like
Yeah.
focused on being able to have hard conversations in person. And I think that's definitely like helped me, especially like dealing with those difficult emotional ones in person, has made me a better communicator than I might otherwise be.
Yeah.
What was the one over the phone like? Like I obviously like you can use discretion or whatever, but like I'm just curious like how something like that goes.
I mean, it was pretty devastating. Like,
Did you know it was coming at all?
yeah, I was the one that broke up. Well, I guess I was the one that had the idea of breaking up. And I mean, it was already a long distance relationship, but like we had a very strong connection with each other, so it was very hard to do that.
Hmm. So what led to the phone call? Was it just sort of like an out of the blue, like can I call
I
you?
think I just said we need to talk or whatever.
Okay, and then you called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. And was it a pretty good conversation, or was it like kind
No,
of
it
bad?
was like a 3 day devastation. Like, yeah.
Ooh, for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Well, sorry about that. I'm sure I don't know when that
Yeah.
was, but well, actually, that's maybe influential. What was the time frame on that?
I was like, it was beginning of senior year of high school.
Okay. Huh. Yeah. I think there's so many there's so many options and avenues for communication now that in person is not only the least efficient, but also sort of the hardest to do, like the most
Mm.
difficult. So that's a pretty bad combination. Um, and even can be like the least effective. Like over text, it's pretty easy to keep things like, well, clarity and texting are sort of,
Well, you can like
opposites.
detach yourself from texting. Like, you
Yeah, you
don't
can
need to
detach it
really.
and like handle it in a linear fashion,
Yeah, you don't need
and
to
like,
like save face with those feelings. Like, you can kind of brush them under the rug and.
yeah, that's true. I don't know. I've never thought of it before, but I'm really hooked now on the ability to handle really close personal relationships, not necessarily romantic, I guess, but just like really, really tense and intense and personal emotional relationships, and being able to handle those in a like artificial, superficial sense now. I think
Yeah.
that's got to be a really huge impact beyond just the whole mess that is the social media scape and how
Yeah.
that affects everyone.
No, yeah, I agree.
Um,
All right,
yeah,
do we wanna clap it out?
we got to get better at ending these. We got to like. I think we did well with that question. Like we had a nice conversation there. What's like this? How do we kind of smooth it off? Like it's like we've been working our way up towards something. You can't just like we can't just do this. There's
Well,
got to
I
be
felt
some
like
kind
we
of
ended on like a good note. Like,
Oh, you did, and now I'm just dragging and
no, I don't think
dragging. Is
you're
that what's happening?
dragging it. I think like when you've kind of run out of things to say, you just end it, and you know.
Okay, well maybe. How about this? How about we say like, what do you guys think? Join the Discord.
Comment down below. Join the Discord. Yeah,
Yeah,
subscribe.
join the Discord. Is the Discord like a linkable thing? How do people get to the Discord?
There's an invite link in the description.
Yeah, go to that, and then let's talk. Let's talk
Let's
about.
have a dialogue about our fleeting social abilities.
Yeah, and I'm really hooked on this emotional conversations over text thing because I definitely I think that's huge. And also, tell me how cool you think paint is.
Yes.
you can you can go to like a separate channel for that. We'll make like
Well, yeah, we'll
can there be
make
like
a
a Charlie
yeah.
channel? Can we get a Charlie channel?
Yeah, we can make a Charlie channel. I'll get Doom on that.
I don't
Yeah.
want that. I don't want that. I don't want a Charlie channel.
All right.
That seems like too much to keep up in the air for me. Anyway, let's keep this dialogue going. Like we've started it. That's the whole premise of the BQWA cinematic universe, BQWACU, is that we sort of give you these things, and then you can go talk to your friends about it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do with my friends. I'll like run by questions with them, and if they go well, then they come to the pod. That's how this works. Or if the pod goes well, I take it to them. But like let's make that Discord kind of a place where we can have these dialogues and work these things out as a healthy, happy community.
Yes.
I'm loving it, Connor.
I agree.
And there's the end. What can we tease next episode? We've guaranteed a guest.
Yes, we have a guaranteed guest, permitting that we have some follow through.
No, it's guaranteed.
Okay, guaranteed.
It's 100%. There is no flexibility. There will be a guest.
Guaranteed
on next week's
guest.
show.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna manifest this.
Yeah. Let's look forward to having that, and I think that's a good point. Let's clap it out.
Woo!
All right.
I'm concerned my claps don't come through if I don't talk. So I might just have to talk while we clap things in and out so that my claps.
You can do like a.
That was
Okay.
good.
Yeah, that's enough.